Both of my parents are from Nigeria. So my mom's always been appreciator of art, and I grew up like seeing African art. I've been to Nigeria 4 times in my life to see family. I actually haven't gotten to like see very much traditional pottery. Basically, the pottery that I know of and have heard of is like my parents talking about, you know, large like pieces of pottery that they used to store like water in when they were little and it would like, my mom would always talk about how it would keep it cold. And it was interesting to me to see that the land in Nigeria is red, and like all the earth there is red, and like all the clay that they use there is red. And I started using red clay before I went there. So to see that made me feel like more connected to that clay body in a way. I feel like I use like really simple techniques. Like I didn't go to college for ceramics, and I've only been doing it for 4 years, so I'm pretty much a beginner. So I'm not really doing anything that crazy. I didn't receive a ton of instruction. When you do those community classes, you get a beginner's lesson where they teach you kind of like the basics, but then after that, you're kind of left to your own devices. I was in a situation where I would probably have to like corner my teacher and get him to show me something. If I really wanted instruction, it was mostly just kind of like make what you want to make. So I ended up doing a lot of like self-teaching. So none of the techniques that I use are that complicated in terms of pottery. I use manufactured clay from alligator clay here in Baton Rouge. Just take a hunk of that, wedge it up, throw it on the wheel into whatever form you want, let it dry, trim it, bisque fire it, which is a slow, lower temperature fire, glaze it, and then fire it again. Well, I started doing the carving when I started using red clay. I wanted the red clay to show through. I like the color of red clay. And so I started doing carved lines, but I was not thinking of it in terms of West African art or any ethnicity. I was thinking of it in terms of using very minimal and simple geometric designs that can be tied to a lot of different backgrounds. So when people see my work, they don't always say African. I've had people say that it looks Native American or Southwestern. I've had people say that it looks Swedish because of the simplicity of the lines. And I've seen Swedish work that is very simple and uses like the kind of like pastel palette. So yeah, I feel like at first, and now even, my aim is more to use like really simple line work. And the reason I like to do that is because it can be tied to so many different cultures and so many different aesthetics. Like everyone uses those lines. And like when you go back far enough, like all like primitive, like, artwork uses like basic geometry and lines. And I don't know, I just didn't want to make anything too concrete in terms of like pictures. Like I can draw a little bit, enough to decorate a pot, but I wasn't really interested in drawing pictures. I wanted to kind of use like just simple, symbols and line work instead. And so I feel like, that's easily interpreted as like African art. I think I was maybe doing a little bit of research on the Dogon tribe. I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right, but Dogon from Mali. I have this art book. It's called African Designs from Traditional Sources by Jeffrey Williams. And it's basically just kind of like black and white prints of different African motifs from all over the continent. And I think I was looking at a specific design in here, and it was from the Dogon tribe. I ran into an image on the internet of a mask from the Luba tribe, which is from the Congo. And I looked at that mask and I realized that all of the colors in it and the way that it was carved just looked like my work already. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, wow, it looks like something that I could have already made. And I had all the materials to make it. It wasn't like I had to go and buy something new or buy new materials to be able to make this thing that I saw. The way that I'm using those masks is kind of like an appropriation of what they were meant to be, because like I use them as like lids to jars and things like that. But I did feel like drawn to making that form. it can be said that my work preserves African culture. Um, I think a more honest claim would be that it's like it represents like the cultural exchange that is America, and right now it feels really important to say that, especially in this political climate. I mean, I use like mayolica, which is, have you seen my painted plates? I have like the blue paint on them. That is a technique that was popularized in Italy, that comes from the Middle East. I mean, I use like Chinese bamboo brushes. Like, there's just, I feel like a more powerful thing to say about my work, and the thing that makes this country so interesting and great is that everything has like all these different cultural influences on it. And to me, that's like so much more exciting than trying to tie my work to like one origin. And then also, Africa isn't just one origin, of course, you know. So, I mean, those masks are more influenced by art from the Congo. My parents are from Nigeria. That's 3 countries away. So it's it's hard to make a straight line between like what I'm making and quote unquote African culture. But I do think that it does the job of maybe just inserting that influence and having it be there. So if people pick up on that, it might make them, you know, explore African art more, you know. I think the most important thing about what I'm making and what most people make, what most art represents, is this awesome like amalgamation of all these different experiences and all these different cultures that come together. And that's like what's really exciting about it, because I don't think you're going to go to the Congo and see people making art exactly like this. I don't think you're going to go to Nigeria and see people making like pottery exactly like this. It's just kind of this summation of like different influences, and that's what's really awesome about, you know, creativity.